Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. So in this video, I am going to kick off a series of conversations that I feel are incredibly important for this time period right now. So today's video, I'm going to be focusing on and opening this dialogue with you with the stellium that's happening in Aquarius right now. Okay. And then I'm just going to keep on creating more content that's going to be coming out very rapidly, where I'm going to be breaking down the stellium and trying to show you why this phase and this stellium is not only pointing us in a specific direction and telling us here's what's going to happen next, but how we can also begin to embed and embody the agency of the cosmos into our consciousness so that we can navigate ourselves with a little bit more preparedness, maybe a little bit more understanding, and hopefully we can walk away from these videos with a sense of deeper introspection and empowerment from the way that these planetary systems are working. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about these planetary alignments, and not in a way where I'm like, oh wow, there's cool things happening. Well, there is. I think it's more in the sense that this is so potent, it's rich with evolutionary potential, and we have a system that allows us to be able to tap into these emergent energies right now. So that's where I'm going with this. This is the first video that initiates it. Part of these videos that are going to be coming out is a surprise. So a surprise set of videos that will be coming out, but I won't tell you what they are. You'll just have to wait and see. They'll be coming out really shortly. And also the Evolutionary Astrology Immersion. So what I'm going to be doing here in the immersion is I'm going to be taking a new group of people who are interested in taking their understanding of astrology and becoming less theoretical and more embodied in a living experience. Imagine that you could actually enrich your sense of awareness and your consciousness with experiencing the archetypes and the astrological signs in a way that's deeply somatic, but also brings you into conscious awareness of these stories that are playing out. So that's also going to be coming up soon. We're going to be letting the information on when we're going to be opening that up shortly. So for those of you that are interested in wanting to go on a journey of deep self-understanding, particularly in an immersive way, then in the description, I've got a link, and that is a sort of waitlist for all the information that I'll be sharing on that. So if you want to know more about this program, just put your name in the waitlist. So let's get into the heart of this conversation. Now, as I said, there are planetary activations that are occurring right now that you, in some way, shape, or form, know are and have been pretty impactful and are going to continue to keep on being impactful. So right now, we have Mars and Pluto that have just crossed each other, okay? We also know that Pluto has entered Aquarius. And whenever a sign or a planet moves into a different sign, we know that there is going to be a shift in the context of our experience and what we are naturally attuned to in the cosmos, okay? So we know that there is a deep shift that's occurring. We're in that process. And every single day, we're becoming more and more sort of attuned to that, although it is very fresh and new. So it's not like we fully comprehend this Pluto and Aquarius transit. So Mars-Pluto, then as I said, you've got this Venus archetype that's arriving onto the conjunction of Pluto and then will cross Pluto and then align with Mars as well. So that's an important aspect to have. And we've just recently had this new moon in Aquarius, right? So not only is that awareness busy gestating in our consciousness, but we also have Mercury traveling there as well, okay? What makes this conjunction and stellium in Aquarius so potent is because every 2.5 years, 2 years, we're going to have, or sometimes it can be less depending on the nature of retrogrades, but there is going to be, there is always the Mars-Venus conjunction, right? The Mars-Venus aspects, or the cycle of these planetary systems tell us a lot about the way that we as human beings evolve or are in a constant state of evolving our values and the relationship that we have to our values within this world. So Mars Venus tells us a lot about how our relationship dynamics are constantly in motion and change. So when you have a conjunction, obviously there's going to be an important need to observe where that conjunction is taking place, because it will set the tone for that year and a half cycle, where over the next year and a half, you will be going through that evolutionary development within your relationship dynamics. Not only when it comes to your personal life, but when it comes to the way that societies change their laws, change their relationships to what's happening in societies, the people's relationships to governments, governments' relationships to other governments. Like it impacts the contours of our emotional and psychological and human landscape. This relationship, this Mars Venus dynamic. So tracking it is a very important thing. We have now in this situation not only a Mars Venus aspect, right, conjunction, but they are also tied in to the lunar nodes. So if you've been following my work and other astrologers, you would have seen that the south node currently is in the sign of Libra, which the planet Venus is associated with. And you have the planet Mars associated with the north node. So this conjunction is not only just, oh, look, it's a conjunction for the next 2 years and cool, let's see what happens. It's, oh, look, here's a conjunction that deeply impacts the subterranean, right? The more metaphysical dynamics of our evolutionary path. So the things that develop within the context of our consciousness are shaped and framed, right, by the nodes. It's like the nodes are lenses that we go, okay, we're paying attention to this. And then the nodes shift into different signs. We're like, okay, we're paying attention to this. So this conjunction between Mars and Venus is aligning and telling us exactly how these nodes are going to be shaping the contours of our consciousness for the next couple of months, right? While the Mars and Venus, the nodes are in Libra Aries. And that's a big deal. Okay, that's a big deal. So it's amplified is the key word here. Then we also have Chiron North Node conjunction, okay, which is very significant because whenever Chiron is making aspects to the nodes, or when Chiron's making any aspects to any planetary systems, we're going to, as a collective, have to address where we carry wounds that have been accumulated throughout our experience. And in particular, experiences that are very close to us over the last, say, like 100 years, right? Okay, so Chiron points to, hey, by the way, here's something that needs to be addressed and you can't ignore it. So Chiron in the North Node says, oh, part of this stellium over here is telling us we also need to pay attention to what's happening on the North Node. Oh, and by the way, pay attention to the new phase conjunction Mars-Venus. And of course, Mars-Venus in relationship to Pluto. So right now, just as a kind of moment of stopping the saturation from taking place in your awareness, you can see and hear that there's quite a lot of activity that is taking place that has a significant impact in the way that we as human beings will move forward over the next year and a half because of the nodes and whatever I've described. So this is big, okay? Then, of course, the Sun and the Mercury are moving through this Aquarius signature. And what this, in a sense, does, especially the Sun, if you think of the Sun in terms of our solar system, it provides light. So the Sun, wherever it's traveling, is, hey, by the way, I'm putting a big light, like a flashlight here. Pay attention to this little signature because there's a lot going on here. So Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Pluto, all in this Aquarius signature. And we need to pay attention. Like that's just simply put, like, pay attention here. Okay. So even the Sun is pointing to it and saying there's something significant happening here. Now, we also have eclipses coming up. Hint, hint, to the sort of earlier statement about what could possibly be coming out in terms of content. The eclipses are happening where we have solar eclipse in Aries, lunar eclipse in Libra. Okay, those are the lunar and solar eclipses on the nodes, of course, but also they are the planet. They are also tied in with the planetary rulers of Mars and Venus. So not only is the stellium setting us up for the, hey, by the way, a big planet like Pluto has changed signs, and so we need to have energy movement in that direction. It's also, oh, by the way, the nodes are deeply affected by a significant conjunction between Mars and Venus. Oh, by the way, we've got this significant North Node Chiron conjunction. Oh, and by the way, the lunar nodes and their lunar and solar eclipses are going to be deeply charged by what we're experiencing right now. So if that doesn't sort of awaken you to the profound significance of the stellium that's taking place, I don't know what does. The message is clear, okay? It's all happening in Aquarius. Uranus is sitting in Taurus at the moment. We know this is about like 19, 18 degrees of Taurus. Uranus is the planet associated with Aquarius. So in this context, this like astrological signature, the stellium, is pointing deeply to Uranus and Taurus as this is what we're dealing with at a deeper subconscious level. And then we also have Jupiter transiting Taurus, and Jupiter will be making, and has been already making, aspects to all of those planets that are in Aquarius. It's forming a square, tension, like new evolutionary dynamics that want to emerge. That's the key here. That's the kind of sentence associated with that aspect between all of the planets in Aquarius forming the square to Jupiter. Okay. Jupiter will also be moving up and onto Uranus at a later point. So that cycle over there with all these planets in Taurus gives us an even deeper layer as to what is occurring for us. Okay. So in a summarized way, what I can encourage us to do with and how we can tap into this energy is firstly like this. I'd say after this video and for the next couple of days, I'd encourage you to practice taking your attention and your awareness and trying to, as much as possible, bring yourself back to Earth. Okay? So bringing yourself back to Earth. And the reason why this is the case is because Uranian energy, Aquarius energy, okay, wants to take us away from the current moment and into something else. Away from this current space and into something new. It doesn't matter where it is, just get me away from this moment. I want to go up there. I want to break something apart and move in a different direction. I want to be removed from the space and go into the sky. So the shadow element here is we can become disembodied in our emotional and psychological landscape because this energy will naturally want to pull us away from the current moment and the current space. So the first thing is grounding yourself in the physical reality and allowing yourself to come back into and immerse yourself back into the time space that you are in. And just like I said, I mean, I'm doing this, right? So I'm not telling you do this. I'm saying this is what I'm doing because I know that there needs to be a conscious relationship between Earth and sky. And if that conscious relationship is not married together, then what you have is extreme disassociation and an emotional disassociation. And with that becomes a natural, like a perfect example would be something like this, okay? I'm sure many of you, in some way, shape, or form, might think that the idea of Neuralink is a cool innovation. We can put a chip in a person's brain, and then that person can now interact with reality just by thinking about it. This is a beautiful Uranus and Taurus, Jupiter and Taurus thing. It's like, oh my God, look how we've gone beyond our physical limitations of having to touch a screen in order for us to make a phone call. We can now just imagine it. That's a Uranian moment. It's like going beyond that limitation, dissolving it. And yet the scary thing is that there is a mutilation of the biology of the body in order for something like this to take place. How many of you would be interested in having brain surgery where the possibility of something going wrong is there, to install a chip that gives you functionality that up until this point in time really hasn't actually been an issue? Like if you had to make a phone call or do something, turn off the lights, you go turn off the lights, right? But now you can just be like, oh, turn off the lights. Okay, now the lights are off. Like I can see the Uranian moments of, wow, I could just telepathically think something. And then if it's attuned, radioactively tuned to the light switch, then it turns off. Like, wow, that's great. It's novelty in many ways. But when you really get down to it, there's a kind of raping of the biology of the body in order for there to be an emergence with this Uranian technology, this out of their technology. So disengaging, like having that marriage disappear, affords us to go into spaces that oftentimes can be deeply sci-fi oriented. I encourage you to explore or go and there's a fantastic video on YouTube called the Neuromancer. And it's specifically by a guy that narrates. It's like a 40-minute video. So for those of you that might feel more Instagram orientated, where the attention span's short, this video is fantastic because just watching 15 minutes of it, you get to see the sense of what the potential of Pluto and Aquarius will look like when there's a disembodiment of our connection to the physical world in a Uranian state. Okay. It's called Neuromancer, and it's really, really fascinating because it speaks to the novelty of moments like this where we can go beyond our borders, but in ways where it's just enhancing. It's like making our comforts more comfortable, as opposed to states of revelations and insights that improves our math or improves our understanding of physics and affords deeper and more impactful relationships to the earth. So how can we improve the way that we understand our relationship to earth in our technology, as opposed to using it in a way that disconnects us from that earth and becomes cyberpunk orientated, like the new Apple glasses, for instance? I'm sure many of you have seen the videos online where people are just walking in reality and doing these random things like this, and it just looks dumb. And like that's an aspect of this. But that's not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say here is that there's this energetic landscape right now where an element of coming out of and just becoming disembodied and out into the internet landscape, out into the shared hallucination, and away from what is immediate in your life right now. You will see over the next couple of months an intensified relationship to displaced emotional trauma, and the realization that these displaced emotional traumas, when are acted upon and embodied and play out, can be incredibly disruptive, dangerous, and hurtful in many ways. And you will see that emerge. So this is also a time, which is really the key word here, is to return back to your own relationship to your emotional dynamics and to start to work consciously on where there are displaced emotional patterns within yourself, to become conscious of them. And in becoming conscious of them, beginning to address where these types of patterns may also lead you to disengage or become disembodied from your body. Okay. In the upcoming videos that I will be doing, I will be talking more about the specifics of each of these planetary systems. Okay. So in the next video, which will be coming up on the screen very soon, is a video on Mars conjunct Pluto in Aquarius, which again, I'm very excited for because I'm going to go deeper into those dynamics there for us and show us the evolutionary potential there. But to summarize this video in the sense, we are entering a phase over the next couple of months where the core evolutionary pattern has to do with Uranus, Aquarius, and a decentralization, a breaking apart, a moving away from, and yet at the same time, while that energy is absolutely necessary, and I'll talk about that in the upcoming videos, it is also a place where we can become so disconnected from our own environment, our own sense of immediacy, that we find ourselves going into and navigating into places where random things like people walking with Apple Vision goggles are just doing this in randomness. And the idea of enhancing our ability to have Neuralink chips placed into the brain so that it can afford greater comfortability while under the guise of telepathy, as an example. Anyway, my closing thoughts. Don't forget to put your name on the waitlist link that's in the description. Immersion's coming up. I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to connect with your astrology charts in a way that is immersive, that is alive, that is awakened. And so that when you're living out your life, you're not seeing these astrologies in 2D little pictures, but you're actually fully experiencing the story and the dilemmas and the challenges and the beauties that are enriched in your chart. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And until the next video, have an amazing day. Bye, guys.